the chat
All
whenever
right,
you start.
we're live. I didn't do the video countdown thing, but we're live. It's Mitch Wolf, Shane Kubis, Steelers ATB. We're here to discuss the last 4 hours that happened in Pittsburgh. Sadly, I'm not sure if Shane or anybody out there isn't. I don't think you should leave fan, but I feel like Carl Havoc right now. I don't want to be here anymore because I also said that it's definitely in the bottom 3, and it might be the worst football game I've ever watched. And not like from an annoyed fan perspective, just quality of play from both teams.
So let me just start off with the fact that you might be noticing that I'm wearing a Lions hat right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
There's 2 reasons for that. One, because I feel like the Lions deserve a lot of credit for not losing this game whenever they had multiple chances to. And I felt like they played very hard and did a really good, especially in the run game. So I want to give them credit for that. Also, little known fact, I collect NFL hats. So there's that.
So that's a fair hobby to have.
Happened to have one. I'm like, you know what? I feel more comfortable and more proud, I think, today specifically, probably wearing this hat than I would if I wanted to wear a Steelers hat right now.
Right.
Considering what we just watched today, Mitch, and we'll, get into it more, but where do we even want to start?
I was just gonna say the exact same thing. I was like, I don't even. Okay, let's start with this. We'll start. We'll start as any good story does from the beginning.
Right.
So, first Steelers drive, they go down, get a touchdown. 10 plays, 83 yards, 5 minutes, easy peasy. They run pretty well. Rudolph's doing a good job throwing the ball. Joe Flacco draws a nice pass interference for a big gain, and then finds James Washington for a touchdown. And, of course, every Steelers fan has that creeping suspicion where it's like, hey, maybe this game will be like kind of chill. It'll be easy. Just like, it'll be a game, but we'll have to, we won't have, heart attack or be depressed at any point today. And that's the killing moment.
Yeah. I mean, it started off, like you said, pretty good. I mean, I wasn't too concerned, like, to begin with. I was like, we're not a big Mason Rudolph, people here at all, like before this game and definitely after it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, the way that Ben's played, like, he's definitely been much more of like a true game manager type of quarterback as he's gotten older. So, like, how big of a drop off could it possibly be? Especially in a game where we're probably going to be running a lot anyway. The weather's not great, whatever.
Yeah, like the drop off from this iteration of Ben to current Mason Rudolph, especially coming off his last game where he played the Browns in Week 17,
played very
and looked
well.
pretty well, looked pretty good, played pretty well. So, I think, and people say like, oh, he didn't practice so much, but he had 2 days of reps with the starters because Ben takes a day off, so Mason runs the offense. I think he had another day. Maybe in the day where Ben tested positive, like, all right, we'll just keep giving Mason the reps. So, like, he had the reps, and obviously he knows this offense well. He's been on this team for a long time. He has playing experience. It's not good, but he has experience. So you're like, okay, like, if he can just game manage this, for 60 minutes, we can, get out of here without too much of a problem, which of course that didn't happen.
And that's the thing about it, is like that first drive looked, like you said, pretty good. I mean, the nice touchdown in Washington, that connection looked strong early on. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can actually have a bit of a passing offense too, even with the weather, kind of balance things out, not rely on Najee too much. And then everything just kind of the rails came off from that point forward, especially in the passing game.
Right. So to their credit, I would say for the rest of the first half, the defense played pretty well. They forced 3 consecutive Lions punts, despite Mason Rudolph throwing an interception on a just awful throw where he tried to check it down to Kalen Ballage, completely missed him. Everything about that play was just terrible because, it was probably not the best play design. Rudolph threw it to the wrong receiver because Freiermuth was wide open on the other side of the field. Yeah. So, like, and even just the decision of being like, okay, I can throw to either Pat Freiermuth or Kalen Ballage, regardless of coverage.
Yeah.
Just throw to Pat Freiermuth. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Then he throws it poorly, and partially because Ballage runs a bad route, and then it gets picked off by a defensive lineman. So, despite that, Lions get a short field, Steelers force a punt. To 3 and out even.
Yeah.
The next time, I forget exactly. The Steelers let up a big punt return, and that time the Lions do score, and that's mostly because they just start running the ball, incredibly.
Yeah, and this is the part of the game where, like, from a defense perspective, that if you're gonna blame any particular group or person on this game, there's a lot of different people you could look at. But the run defense specifically for a big chunk of this game is
Hmm.
really the number one issue that we were dealing with, where it didn't seem to matter who they had back there. I
Hmm.
mean, that Jefferson rookie, he looked great in a couple
And then he got
plays.
hurt
Yeah,
immediately, of
yeah,
course,
he
because
got
it's the
hurt. Yeah,
Lions.
of course, yeah. 28-yard touchdown, longest they've had since I think they said like
2013.
2018. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, he's gone, so don't worry about that.
Yeah,
And then Godwin Igwebuike, who I believe was a
who tore the
safety.
Steelers up in the preseason.
Yeah, was he not a safety
He
also before
was.
this year? Right.
Yeah, they
Okay.
converted him to a kick returner and running
Right.
back
I
this
want to
offseason,
say
I
he
guess.
played for like Northwestern. I
Northwestern is
think.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Again, he has a 42-yard like so
Yeah.
just weird running backs making weirdly good plays against the Steelers defense, which that has been a little shaky against the run a couple times this year. So like not the most unexpected thing on the planet that we had a little bit of trouble with that, but just consistently just getting gashed in the run game when their quarterback had what I think 11 yards passing in the
That
first
sounds
half.
right. Yeah.
And
And go ahead.
no, I was just like that. You can't. I understand like they're going to run the football. That's what they want to do, especially in general with conditions with the team that they
Hmm.
have. They're much more equipped to run the football than they are to throw the football. But you can't let a team rush for like over 100 yards on you in the first half when their quarterback has 11 yards passing. Like when you have no threat of the passing game, you have to be able to shut down the running game at least to a certain extent, and they could not do it in the first half.
Yeah, and I think the commentators did actually. First of all, the commentators were awful, but they
Yeah,
did a good. But
yeah,
Daryl Johnson did a good job illustrating this. That the Lions came out and they were running a lot of 6 offensive lineman sets, a
they
lot of
were.
heavy sets
Hmm.
to try to basically just run the ball down the Steelers' throats. And the Steelers didn't really adjust until late into the third. And so basically, you had effectively about 2 quarters of Steelers just being completely inept
Yeah.
on in their run defense, and it was everything. It was poor ability to stand up against blocks. It was poor ability to shed blocks. It was poor tackling. Just everything was bad in run defense for most players. I'll say this: I think for until he got hurt, T.J. Watt was having a good game.
Yeah.
Cam Hayward was great again. Alex Highsmith kind of figured it out later in the game, but pretty much everybody else was terrible. And we'd be remiss if we didn't say Joe Hayden goes out pretty early in this game. Minkah Fitzpatrick went down for a minute. I thought they said Cam Sutton went out for a little bit. So,
Yeah.
and obviously a lot of those guys don't really have much to do with the run defense, but still, it was just like a lot of injuries on the defense that frankly didn't matter that much, but it was just something that should be noted. So the Lions get that first touchdown. Steelers get the ball back. They go down the field pretty decently. Mason Rudolph's doing a decent job running the offense in terms of his ability to kind of find those, get those free plays when the defense is offside, which is a pretty, I would say, advanced skill for quarterbacks. So that was at least nice. But the Steelers do get a touchdown, except it gets called back for holding, which it seemed like was a pretty soft holding penalty. I would say the
Yeah.
refs had a lot of very
Soft
ticky-tack
penalties.
calls
Yeah, a
this
lot of
game.
soft penalties across the board.
Yeah.
And it honestly, like after last week, it's kind of hard to come out here and be like, man, the Steelers had a lot of penalties called against them. We're kind of like, but it is still true. Like it's
Yeah.
still the case. So
But I mean that's the point is like you can't really like be like, oh, like I mean I guess you can with the taunting thing, but like that's the thing is like week to week, like just different teams are getting hosed. So like
yeah,
it's just a matter of like which are you lucky this week or aren't you? So
right.
but the other problem was that after that touchdown, and this was that was called back, and this was a theme throughout the game. On 1st and goal from the Detroit 17, Steelers throw the ball 3 times. All of which were complete, but none of which went for a touchdown. And this was something they kept doing, and this was something that confused me. And granted, the Lions did a decent job stopping the run, but to not run the ball, even with some offensive linemen banged up, with a backup quarterback in against a team that is not that good against the run, why are you not giving it to arguably your best offensive playmaker in the with goal to go?
That's a question that we're going to have to continue to think about again. I think unfortunately for a while because it seems like this team once they get down in the red area, they don't want to run the football, and I don't entirely know. Like I don't know why that is. I mean, when you think about it, if there's ever a position that you want to be in with a running back like Najee Harris, it's those shorter fields where only one or two broken tackles and it's a touchdown, right? You don't have to rely on your quarterback to make the right read, especially the backup quarterback. You don't have to rely on receivers getting open in bad field conditions. Just run the football. And if it doesn't work on 1st and 2nd down, fine.
Yeah,
then
and
you go to the
it's
pass, you do something there, but you at least have to try to do it.
yeah, and it's proven that like in those situations, it's a good time to go to Najee because he's going to create those extra yards
Yeah,
after contact. Like that's a good time to do it. So that happened a few more times, and I just didn't understand it.
I don't know.
So Lions get a field goal right before the half, and then they get the ball at halftime. They have another great rushing drive, just go cut right through the Steelers defense, no problem. Lots of big run plays. So yeah,
Just the story of the really, like I said, the second and third quarter was
yeah,
just, especially those 2 quarters were just brutal
yeah,
on defense as far as, I mean, they didn't even have to think about throwing the football.
right,
Like Goff literally was just like a guy who's standing there, just basically a handoff machine. It's like, I was turning around, like it
yeah,
could have been anybody back there, and it would have made no difference. And you don't want to be in a position on defense where the quarterback no longer matters to you,
hmm
because that means a whole lot about it says a lot more about the Steelers defense than it does about the Lions offense whenever that type of thing is
right.
happening.
So then the Steelers' first drive in the second half. This is the Taysom or Mason Rudolph is Michael Vick drive where he
Yeah, what I just have to say, the fact that Mason Rudolph's arguably 2 best plays in this game were both running plays tells you so much about what a ridiculous football game that we just watched was.
the great thing about Mason Rudolph is that he you know exactly what he is.
Yeah, you do.
And yet
Yeah.
no matter what, he always finds a way to surprise you,
He always does something, right?
which
Like,
is something you want in a relationship but not with your quarterback.
right, yeah. It's again, when I saw him like reverse field, I'm like, this
That was
man's not.
insane. That was
It's like this
absolutely
man's
insane.
not doing this, is he? And I'm like,
No.
he's gonna get screwed
Yeah.
up in the middle. Like he's gonna get destroyed by some defender
Nope.
coming across. And then no one's there. And I'm like,
26
oh my
yards.
god, the Lions are gonna let Mason Rudolph run for more yards on one play than Ben has run for in like 4 years.
Yeah.
That's hilarious to me. And then he did it again. He like
Yeah.
trucked. I
And
think
then
he like
like the
killed
next
Tracy Walker.
that was the next one
Yeah,
because yeah, because they basically it seemed like a designed quarterback draw on 3rd and 6 where he drew the defense offsides. He scrambles for 11 yards, gets absolutely walloped by a defensive back who probably should have been targeted for or should have been flagged for head to head. The defensive back hurts himself and they get the first down and it's 1st and goal. Now, of course, Steelers throw the ball 3 times, they're all incomplete, kick another field goal.
Yeah.
And
So
we also need to talk about how this is the Mason Rudolph Michael Vick game, and this was Ray McLeod's time to shine for some reason.
yeah, can we talk about that a little bit too? Because I'm confused, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, I have nothing against Ray. Ray. He's a really nice player to have. Has had a couple issues last couple
Mm-hmm.
games, but
Yep.
what made is it just because he practiced more with Rudolph? I guess
That's what I'm guessing.
because otherwise, like, I mean, Deontay got a ton of targets too, and we'll talk
Mhm.
about some of the stuff he did too, by the way.
Ugh.
But like the fact that McLeod leads this team in receptions in this game, it
Mhm.
makes no sense to me.
And he only got one less target than Deontay.
Right, and it's like the fact that he's the guy that we're going to,
Mm-hmm.
and like I guess like maybe it made sense because like you said, maybe it was the fact that he just had more time with Rudolph recently, and he's got
Mm-hmm.
maybe a better rhythm with him. But just everything about this game seemed off pretty much after that first touchdown drive.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that was everything after that was just what the hell are we watching today? Like what is
Yeah.
going on?
So Steelers get the field goal there, and I think this is probably when the run defense kind of starts to change.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I'm not exactly I don't think it was this drive, but so they force a punt. They do allow 28 yards, but they force a punt. You know, they're starting to kind of figure out the run defense, and I can't exactly say what the change was, but I think they just finally were like, all right, fine. If you want to do this, if you're not going to throw the ball, we're going to put 9 guys in the box, and we're going to stop you. And to the defense's credit, once they'd made that adjustment, it pretty much worked, I would say.
Yeah, it did, and like that's whenever the game started to become just like who can actually get points next,
Yeah.
right? And the answer is nobody. Nobody could get points next.
Yes. The problem
from that field goal drive, the last field goal drive, the Steelers had to tie it. The next 1, 2, let me just do the math here real quick. The next 6 drives, not counting the end of half kneel down, are all punts.
Mhm.
Okay. Then there's a fumble by the Steelers.
Well, there's a punt, fumble, missed field goal, punt,
Right.
fumble.
Yeah, punt, fumble, end
End of game.
And again, this is a team that's 0-8.
Mm-hmm.
I understand we have backup quarterback. We have bad conditions. We're missing Chase Clay. All that stuff. It to me, it shouldn't matter. Whenever they were dealing with the same conditions, obviously, we at least have a kicker who can hit field goals in
Mhm.
Heinz Field and in these conditions. And then on top of that, Jared Goff has a busted hip or whatever his issue is and can't throw
Yeah.
the football anyway. So
Mhm.
it's like you're really not even at a deficit at quarterback technically, because at least yours isn't hurt. Like
Mhm.
it's just
They also the commentators made a point about like how this week Dan Campbell was taking over play calling and like getting his headset into Jared's helmet.
right.
And like they're like, yeah, like he's taking over play calling, like he wants to more direct communication with the quarterback. What I interpreted this as was like, I'm taking over, we're just gonna run the football
Yes,
every
and
play.
honestly, again, I don't blame them for it.
No.
Even if Goff was healthy, I don't blame them for doing that.
Yeah.
He's been bad.
Hmm.
Our very own, we'll call him president, freaking Ronnie Harder's a Lions fan. He will tell you that's all he tweets about. Jared Goff's bad. I
Hmm.
think he said something along the lines of like every week the Lions are playing with 10 guys on offense or
Yeah,
something
yeah, that
like
was a
that.
good one.
And
That was
I'm
good.
like, that's exactly how it feels a lot of the week. And like even then he's hurt too. So you have no threat from Jared, like zero threat from Jared Goff, even less threat, negative threat from Jared Goff at this
Hmm.
point. And we still, for a big chunk of this game, we're like, we can't play the run. I don't know, like there's too
The
many holes, too
The
many
other
lines.
thing that was funny is that with Rudolph in, they were still like, "Hey, if it's third and medium, we're either
Throw it
throwing
deep,
behind the line of
throw it
scrimmage or
deep.
throwing 40 yards down the field."
Which
Why are we?
again,
Why?
that removes the possibility of it being Ben just saying, "Screw it, I'm doing it
Yeah,
anyway." Because again, Mason, just stop it. All right.
yeah,
I get it. You throw the ball to James Washington. Yeah, throw it deep, James Washington. Yeah, it's college. Oklahoma State. No, stop it. This is the
right,
NFL. Don't do it. Stop.
hmm,
Like he should
right,
have had been intercepted like 2 different times on deep
yeah,
passes to James Washington, only because like we're gonna throw it to James. Let's do it. It's like, what
yeah.
are you doing?
So right at
Oh
the
my
end of the
god.
third quarter, the Lions had the ball and they're pretty much in their own,
Yeah.
like really deep in their own field, and Steelers sack Jared Goff, but TJ Watt gets hurt,
Yeah.
and this was the point where I tweeted, "Somebody just take me out back and shoot me."
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because I
saw
was like,
that.
all right, if that's what it's gonna be, then just I don't want to be here anymore again. But it seems like it's not a long term thing. I don't think he came back in the game,
No, I didn't see
but
anything
they
else.
listed as a hip injury too, which I thought was very
Yeah, I
odd.
don't know what. Yeah, because a similar thing happened. I forget who it was, but somebody got hurt last week, and they said it was like a hip injury or some other like higher up injury, but it's
Yeah,
clearly like an ankle injury or something.
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird,
yeah, and
but whatever.
it was plainly obvious that on the sack, him and Joe Scherbert's knees just like clanged
Connected. Yeah,
together,
connected. Yeah.
and I think this is what I always say with like injuries like this. Like usually, if the guy is in like very obvious pain, for an injury, I would say that's usually a good thing because that means like it's a strain or nothing is torn. Because from what I've heard about people talk about ACL tears, is when it tears, it's just like you just feel a pop and you're like, all right, that's it, it's gone. I know. But he like walked off the field. He was walking like kind of around the sideline, like he was ruled questionable. So I think the good news is that there's not a long term injury, so that's good.
I feel like worst case scenario, it's some type of bone bruise of some
Hmm.
kind.
Hmm.
And best case scenario, it's just some sort of like soft tissue, like bruising injury type of thing, like something like that. Like that's what it seemed like on
Right,
first view. And the
right.
fact that he was on the sideline, like you said,
Hmm.
don't
Now
think it's any sort of tear.
I'll say this after that, this might be controversial, but I do think the Steelers defense is obviously significantly better when TJ Watt is on the field. But I think him going down kind of really lit a fire into the defense. Like, okay, we don't have, and like Minka got hurt earlier, but he came back in pretty quick. But it's like, okay, we don't have TJ Watt to bail us out now. Like, we all have to pick it up. And I think they, kind of were like, they all picked it up to, repeat myself. But into like the early fourth, they started playing a lot better, I would say.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of it, like you said, that we didn't do a good job adjusting against what they were doing on
Hmm.
offense with the running game, and then it really took their swing tackle, on lineman. I think Matt Nelson is his name.
Hmm.
Him going out, it took him kind of going out and them
Yeah.
having to not have that six lineman, three tight end formation type of thing
Hmm.
they're doing. It
Yeah.
took that to kind of really help us get going as a run defense too.
Also, I think
And
generally, like with
yeah,
just time running out, they're like, all right, we can't really just like run the ball every down. We do have to throw, which
at
like
least a little bit,
finally,
which
yeah,
didn't
exactly.
work out. I mean, Goff threw for what, like 80 some yards or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Well, I think he
I think it was
finished
he
with
got over 100
yeah, he
because
finished at
there's
100,
over.
yeah,
Right,
100,
but
but
I mean, then the next after the Steelers get a field goal in the following drive, the next drive the Lions get it back. The Steelers force a punt, and there is a ghost of a running into the. Thank God I was running into the kicker because
yeah.
then they mentioned it. Jack Fox should get an Oscar for his performance there where Miles Killebrew like just nudged him maybe a little bit from
Yeah, with his
behind.
hip. Yeah, with his shoulder
And
as a hip.
yeah, so they it doesn't give them first down, but the next play they run fullback dive and get the first.
Barely.
Ultimately, it doesn't go anywhere,
Yeah.
as did every drive in the next rest of the game. Yeah, Steelers just can't do anything. To their credit, I would say, despite losing Trey Turner in the middle of the game and losing Kevin Dotson pretty early, I would say the offensive line played pretty well in terms of protecting Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, that's the thing that's most disappointing for me about Mason's performance is I felt like he wasn't under pressure nearly enough to be
Yeah.
as inaccurate as he was.
Yeah, obviously we
'Cause
won't have the pressure numbers from like PFF until
later,
probably
but
later this week, like tomorrow. But it didn't seem like he was under pressure very much. Maybe only like 2 or 3 times.
and just some of the wide open misses on
Yeah,
plays,
yeah,
like the
yeah,
Deontay one where he missed a middle of field where he had to try to one hand grab
yeah.
it.
We just fired the ball in
Yeah,
on like a quick slant that
and then some of the just loopy throws to the sideline that never
hmm
got close. I'm like, this is just brutal to watch because
hmm
there's opportunities here for plays. It isn't like they're just locking down our receivers every play. It's not like there isn't yards to be gained there, but he just can't get the ball into the right spot in any of these big situations. And he
hmm
was also just taking chances with the football, like the one that Washington basically had to play defense on
yeah,
Aruwariye because he would have intercepted it otherwise.
hmm
And just a lot of just dumb throws and just
yeah.
badly misses.
Just
Like,
terribly inaccurate throws,
yeah,
and like that. At this point, that's something you can't be doing. Like you have to just be making these short throws where guys are wide open. You just have to make them. That's the be all and end all. But like I said, defense playing real. Alex Highsmith had a awesome game,
yeah.
especially late in the game where he started kind of stringing out runs, and getting tackles for loss. Again, Lions not doing really anything else. So the game does go to overtime, which I couldn't do.
I
But
I just wanted it to be over at that point.
yeah,
I'm like, just somebody like when I saw that the Lions had a chance, like it was a rough field goal opportunity with their kicker and everything.
hmm
But like I'm like, honestly, just kill me, just end it.
yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
don't care.
because like the first play, the Lions get a big pass to get into Steelers territory.
Right? Yeah.
Then they kind of don't really do anything. Cam Hayward gets a big sack. Cam Hayward another awesome game
Awesome
that
game.
basically pushes them out of field goal range. Steelers get the ball back, and to his credit, Mason finds Deontay. Great run after catch, run down the field, and Mark Gilbert gets a perfect punch out fumble that
Perfect.
the Lions recover.
And
Just
again, I
couldn't make the
hate
step up.
to I don't want to like say anything bad about Deontay because he was missed a ton. Like he didn't have
Mhm.
much chance to do a lot with most of the throws he got, but
And
like
like the ball was held pretty well. I
it
would say
was,
it's more
yeah.
about the punch the than like him not carrying the ball like LaShawn McCoy or anything.
Right, but this is my problem with it, right? Is it's game situation,
hmm
okay? You just made a great play. You got a ton of yard. Just it's, at some point when you're in a crowd of people, just go down.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
you you have a ton of yards on this play. It's going to be a first down. You only need 10, maybe not even that many yards to get in the field goal range if he just goes down a little bit early. Just take your don't get greedy with plays like that.
yeah. We're gonna come back to
Overtime.
that. We're gonna come back to that theme later.
Yeah,
So
a
the
little bit.
Lions
Yeah.
the Lions get the ball back. First play, Goff throws a pick to Minka finally, but they call Devin Bush for holding, which again I thought was pretty ticky tack.
Yeah, but like, and they even mentioned it too. Like Bush has to know, like
Yeah,
he's got
this was a
help.
rough game for Devin
Yeah,
Bush.
the linebacking core in general, outside
Yeah.
of like Highsmith and Watt
Yeah,
when he
the
played,
inside
was
linebackers
tough.
off ball, whatever. Yeah, they
It
were
was
really
bad.
bad. So that happens. Lions keep the ball and advance the ball. A few plays later, there's an incompletion, but they call Trey Norwood for roughing the passer, which he goes low, but he barely touches Goff.
That's the problem with this. I understand like the way the rule is worded and the way it's designed is to prevent those types of things,
The
but
Carson Palmer injury, yeah.
yeah, right. But there was no forcible contact
No,
on the
like he was
play.
basically being pushed to the ground and
Right.
kind of just ended up around Goff's feet and yeah. But so
And
that's a big penalty.
right.
They don't really do much. They get a holding penalty that backs them up again, and then they kick a field goal that's pretty long but missed because it's just short and their kicker is bad.
Yeah, he's just not. Yeah. And again,
So
like
Steelers get the ball back, and Kendrick Green finally fires a snap
finally,
over
it should have happened like 5
Rudolph's head
seconds.
because it was happening a lot. Like
Yeah.
I think before that there were maybe 3 or 4 like high snaps that Mason did a good job handling,
Yeah.
but this one was just he couldn't do anything about. So
No.
they lose. What do we got? Like 50,
I,
40 yards on that.
I felt like
Um,
I think it felt like
20,
that. It was
20
20
yards
yards, I think,
actually.
roughly. Yeah.
So they can't really do anything. They throw a pass to try to get some of it back. It's incomplete. Punt. Lions get the ball back. They get sacked in the first play. 2 incompletions. Steelers get the ball back again. And this was a weird play where I think this was the one where they punted it. There was a guy in the end zone, and
Yeah.
he taps the ball, and then Raymond McLeod touches it. The Lions recover the ball, but because Hodge was in the end zone or had not reestablished himself out of the end zone when he touched the ball, it's ruled a touchback. From what the people that I trust on Twitter say, this was a smart play by McLeod, but it's also like, why not doesn't he just go after the ball instead of just trying to touch it? You know, I still think I think he was trying to go for it, but the other guy behind him that went through the other guy's just sprinting downfield, so he just has more momentum. So,
Yeah.
but I do think that's like not a terrible play from McLeod. Like
No,
that's,
it's
but it was
not.
just weird play
Yeah, it's
in a game full of just strangeness.
yeah, just
So Steelers do get a oh, that's not the touchback one. I don't know. Anyways, there was a lot going on in this
there's
game.
too many punts to keep
Yeah,
track of who's
exactly.
doing what.
It's
Like,
too hard to follow all of
honestly,
these
it's like
terrible punts.
it was bad.
So the Steelers get the ball back. This was weird too. They're throwing the ball, and when they make completions, the Lions use their 2 timeouts, which I was like, why are they doing that? That's very odd.
I
I
guess
guess,
just
but
in case they get a chance to have the
right,
ball
which
because
they
it's fourth
did
down.
theoretically, but it
Yeah.
was just like I just thought that was kind of odd. Because I feel like you'd rather just have the Steelers try to go hurry up with a pretty discombobulated offense.
Yeah.
But whatever. But so the Steelers actually move the ball decently well. You know, Rudolph's hitting Freiermuth on a lot of big throws. They get past the 50, and then Freiermuth tries to throw to
Rudolph tries to throw
Rudolph throws to
Freiermuth.
Freiermuth, kind of near the sideline, and Freiermuth tries to turn it upfield, gets tackled, fumbles, and the ball just stops right by the line or the out of bounds line, and the Lions recover. They can't. They throw like a. They try to run like the lateral play, and nothing happens, and it's a tie. So it sucked. I mean, this game was terrible. It was not just for the Steelers. Like this was just bad for everyone because as bad as the Lions are, the Steelers did try to keep giving them the game, and then the Lions still were just like, no, we're not gonna do anything because they were just refusing to throw the ball, which again is a decent strategy, but yeah.
Like the thing about it for me is this was a bad football team in the Lions being played down to by a battered and also playing very badly
Mm-hmm.
Steelers team. And
Mm-hmm.
it became a battle of like, man, who wants it the least?
Yeah.
Like, who wants to go home with a win? Nobody? Okay, well, nobody did. Good for you guys. You guys got what you wanted. It really felt like that. Like, we finally, that last drive in overtime, I'm like, okay, maybe we're at least going to get Boswell an actual shot to
And
either
and
go home or.
they were there.
Yeah,
They could if Freiermuth doesn't fumble. And Freiermuth had a pretty bad drop earlier in that drive
he did.
where he
Yeah.
just took his eyes off the ball. So kind of a rough game from him after some really great performances the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
But
it
yeah.
was. But we get that final drive, and I'm like, okay, at least maybe we'll work it down. We'll have one last field goal opportunity. If we don't make it, whatever, we tie. Maybe we make it. We get out of here with a win. Great. And then that play happens, and I'm like, of course it happened.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't we have a chance to at least kick a field goal with the second best kicker in football,
Mm-hmm.
who's already hit a 50-yarder in this game, and it's all he does in Heinzville is hit 50-yarders.
Mm-hmm.
And no, instead we try run one more play, which I totally get, try to get a couple more yards, get out of bounds, whatever, and just doesn't work out. Like nothing did.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I think somebody said something about like the Lions, like after their Eagles loss, they did the classic football guy cliche where they, buried or burned the tape to move on. And
Right.
this is one of those games. And, I think people could be like, oh, this is Tomlin playing down to his opponent. And it's like, I don't love that argument because, and especially in this, I'll just talk about it from this case because, we did say that Mason did take a lot of snaps, but you're playing with a backup quarterback who is not good. You're playing with a lot of injuries that happened before the game and during the game.
Yeah.
So you're playing with a essentially JV squad. Like you have Najee and Deontay and I guess Freiermuth kind of, but your best players are all super young or rookies.
Yeah.
Your offensive line has a guy who was a solid AAF player who was a back who and he was playing, and then a guy who's kind of your journeyman swing inside, offensive lineman. So like, and I got the lines are bad too, but that's just things like this. This was like the Steelers were not the Steelers of the last 2 weeks. Like it was obviously a bad performance, and I'm very frustrated about it. But I'm not like I don't think this team is good, but I don't think this team is bad. They were bad today. They were bad today, but I do not think they are a bad team when they are at quote full strength. Like full strength meaning
what we've seen from them.
Alualu's still out. Tuitt's still out. Other Juju's still out. Other than that, I think they're still okay. Like they're not great, but they're okay.
And the thing that with this game too, and I didn't expect to feel this way coming out of this game because one, I was hoping we wouldn't be either in a tie or loss situation, but I really feel like even though I didn't expect to feel like I said to feel this way going in this game, I think Ben would have won this game.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I didn't expect the drop off to be enough for it to matter. No. But some of the throws that Mason missed specifically, assuming you get those same looks, because it's not like the Lions were like, oh man,
you don't play Mason Rudolph any different.
No, you don't. You don't. Not at this point. And the fact that so many of those throws were missed, like as much as Ben's missed some throws this year, like he's not missing throws like that Mason was missing, at least not consistently like he was. And obviously playing in the rain, he's that type of player that can play in those conditions and make it work. And Rudolph clearly isn't, I guess. Like that's maybe one thing about it, is that maybe on a nice day Rudolph goes out there and wins the game. But I think we've seen enough of him personally. Like if Ben misses any more time at any point this year, as much as people like will say stuff about Haskins and say that he's worse than Rudolph, like can he possibly really be worse than what Rudolph showed today? Like I honestly, unless he doesn't understand, like unless he's not comfortable enough with the offense. Right.
Which I don't understand why he wouldn't be.
Right. But like, if that's the
case,
from
not having chemistry with the players that are starting.
Right. Or whatever, that's fine. But like, unless you don't think he can run the offense effectively and like actually call the plays in the huddle and do everything at this point, if like, hopefully Ben just plays the rest of the year, right? Like we don't have to worry about that. But I even said it like at some point during the game, like take him out of the game. He's not doing anything for you. Like at least like Haskins at least has more arm talent, and like maybe he'll make a big throw at one point just because he takes a shot. Like Rudolph's not doing those things. He's not getting the ball down the field at all. He's not accurate down the field right now. I mean, he had the one throw to Johnson, but that was really just a great play by Deontay to get in position for it. Like at least if he's not going to make any worse mistakes, in my opinion, like he already is missing throws anyway. At least you might get a shot in the arm if you come out and try to take a big shot down the field with him or something. And it's tough because I see people like, they can't put Haskins in because he's so much. I'm like, can he really be worse than what we saw today?
Yeah, I mean, and like this game presents you probably the best opportunity possible you have Mason Rudolph, because he is basically playing basically this is what Tom would say, but like this is basically a JV NFL roster on defense.
At least
like this would be a time for Mason Rudolph to get it together. Yeah,
right. You think so?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want him playing against like the Ravens, that's or another team that has a solid defense, even though this year is kind of all over the place, especially in the AFC.
It's a mess, but
yeah. So, I mean, was anything else? Any other storylines that you found intriguing? I don't know if that's the right word.
But... man, obviously hoping that TJ's healthy.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I know we got a couple of questions on the YouTube chat from Kyle Phelps here.
I would say the Lions would definitely possible they go with 16-1.
If they do, then that's great.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fantastic.
They didn't go winless.
Yeah, exactly.
So good thing for them. Yeah. Good for them. That would definitely be the best thing ever. And unfortunately, the Bengals comment. They've been rough, but I'm definitely not feeling great. Especially after this.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
I mean, and that game's going to be in Cincinnati, where the Steelers traditionally don't have a good time.
Yeah.
So
it's not
gonna, that wouldn't shock me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, do we even want to do 3 stars? Can we find 3? I think we can find 1.
Here's what I'll tell you. The 3 players that if you had to pick people, we don't even have to do stars.
Yeah.
If I had to pick only 3 players to allow back on the bus, right? Okay. We'll just
the rest of you have to walk home.
Right. The rest of you have first of all, Mason's getting sent to the moon. Okay. He doesn't get on the bus. He gets taken on a different bus
He
to go
gets
to
on
a different
Detroit's
place.
flight.
Right,
He has to find a way
exactly.
back.
Right. Him and Jared Goff need to sit next to each other and talk about who was worse on this game.
That is the
Right?
most insane part, is because so Goff, here's Goff's stat line:
Mhm.
14 for 25, 114 yards. That's 4.6 yards per completion. No touchdowns, no picks, 4 sacks, 37 yards. QB rating of 67.8. So if you take away his sack yardage, that's the NFL, he had 77 net passing yards.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Here's Mason Rudolph's box score: 30 for 50, which is a 60% completion, 242 yards. That's 4.8 yards per completion, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 0 sacks, passer rating of 70.6. So it was only less than 3 points better. And I think you could have a legitimate argument as to which quarterback was better today.
I actually, if I had to pick right now without diving more into it, I think Goff played his role better because at
Yes.
least with Goff, like he was clearly a little bit banged up.
Mm-hmm.
His running game was fantastic and he didn't have to do much most of the game. And he had to basically all of a sudden decide to start throwing because the way the game got at the end. And
Mm-hmm.
he performed better. He was more accurate, in my opinion, in terms of actual like ball placement and getting the ball
Mm-hmm.
where it needed to in
Yep.
his limited attempts than Mason was.
Yep.
And at least with Goff, like his excuse for his yardage being bad is he threw the ball 25 times instead of 50. And his receivers are much worse than us, regardless of our receiving core
Yeah.
situation right now. Clearly not as good as the
Yeah,
Steelers.
I know it's not going to be up, but I need to see what the average depth of target
I
was.
think at one point for Goff it was
Yeah, it
2.7.
was like 2. Yeah, I saw that. I think I saw that tweet too. Yeah, it was just preposterous.
Like it's so low that it's almost like, why are you
Yeah.
even throwing? Just hand the ball off, or just do like jet sweeps or something. Like
Yeah, it was.
it's really
Jeez.
embarrassing. But like I would say that, like I said, I think Goff probably on a sample size basis too, and like considering what he was working with, I'd say probably outplayed Mason. Like honestly, at least he
Mhm.
didn't turn the football over. You know, like
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just awful, like just bad, just bad across the board. But the
Yeah, I mean,
three, like,
so yeah, the
yeah,
3 players. Yeah, let's go
yeah.
with
So
it.
the 3 guys that I'd let back on the bus, no questions asked, is Cam Hayward. Obviously, he has a permanent seat on the bus of wherever he chooses.
Yeah, either first
Yeah,
seat or back seat. I don't know what's
it
popular
does.
with kids these
Which
days, but
yeah,
yeah.
whatever the best seat is, he gets it.
Mhm.
Honestly, I feel like Highsmith was fantastic for the most part
Yes.
too. Other than
Yeah.
a couple bad reads on like trying to force runs inside out, like
Yeah, I think
outside of
there
that,
was one play that they said like he kind
yeah,
of went inside basically when he should have went outside. He
the
went
force
inside,
back
which
inside,
allowed the run to get outside,
yeah,
whereas he should have gone kind of outside of the puller to force the run back
back
inside. So,
inside, yeah.
and that happens with him occasionally, and TJ Watt kind of does the same thing, but especially late in the game, like he really turned it on.
Yeah, he
Um,
really showed up for us in
yeah,
the second half of
yeah,
the game.
sacks,
So
TFLs, what have you, definitely.
yeah, so
So
him
then,
for sure. And then I actually really liked the way Edmonds played in this
yeah,
game.
he had a big, yeah,
He had the
definitely.
sack, which was pretty much a blown play by the
Hmm.
line, but still had really nice, really couple good tackles,
Yeah, he
hits,
had some
just
TFLs too. Let me see.
awesome play.
Yeah, he had 5 tackles, 4 solos, 2 TFLs, a pass defense, and a quarterback hit. Yeah, so great game from him.
Hmm.
I think Najee was good. He didn't have a lot of room to do anything,
This
honestly,
is typical Najee game for me.
especially once the offensive line like had to go really deep into the bag
Yeah,
of backups.
just throw
But I
guys out
mean,
there.
he had, let's see, 133 yards from scrimmage on 30 touches. So, you know,
Pretty, like it's a pretty standard game for him. I mean,
yeah,
he had 4 yards of carry, 105 rushing yards, long of 12. Which again, I can't wait for the one time that he gets an actual like big hole to run through and he
yeah,
gets like a big chunk play. But
yeah. And
we'll
he
be
should have
waiting
had a
again for
rushing
that.
touchdown.
Yeah, he should have honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, without holding
So,
penalties. So
yeah, so like I'd say he has a spot. He played as well as he could. A lot of other players were just bad.
yeah, it was
And I think it was bad. It was a bad game for Matt Canada too, in terms of some of the plays that called were just weird. Too many like sweeps and screens and stuff. Red zone play calling was terrible.
tough.
Rough game for Keith Butler, I'd say, not making those adjustments until, and again they worked, but like just make them earlier, please. Like it's not even like the Rams were like kind of trying to hide that they were running the ball. Like they were like, we're coming out with 6 offensive linemen. We're not throwing the ball. We are going to run every play. And they're just like, no, we're going to wait a little bit to make these adjustments.
That's the
So
thing that's bugged me the most about Butler and like the people that talk about like he should be gone. Like I'm not ready to go to that point yet, but I totally understand it because there's so much talent on this defense, but there's still times where, and it seems like I said, it's mostly schematic stuff. It's not them just being bad. they just don't adjust as quickly as they need to a lot of things that end up working against them.
Right.
Like it just, especially the running game this year. Like there's been teams like the Seahawks game whenever they were running the same like wide zone play and kept getting 10, 15 yards on it. And it's just stuff like that'll happen, and it really makes it harder on the offense because with the offense playing as bad as it has for most of the year, if something is working well against the defense and the defense has to sit out there and play 10, 15 snaps and then immediately maybe go back out there if the offense doesn't do anything,
Yeah.
that's how you start getting the spiral we got at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So they have the Chargers next week on the
God,
road, I think.
I just like
Yeah, that'll be fun.
awesome.
On Sunday night, no less.
Great.
So everybody
Can't
gets to
wait.
watch. Everybody gets to watch this team.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's
That'll
really
be
excited
that'll
too.
be great. That'll be great.
Uh,
But these are your second in the division Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hey, at least the Browns got absolutely dogged today.
Yeah,
At
and
least
I
that
don't like
happened.
rooting for the Patriots, but I was like, all right, this works for us. That was decent.
Yeah,
And again, it was kind of a weird week in the NFL, in that the Washington football team beat the Buccaneers
yeah,
pretty
they're
soundly, which
Buck.
arguably could be a more surprising result, like given the context, because like if you told me like just no context, okay, the Lions tied the Steelers, we could be like, that's not cool. But
Yeah,
you
that
tell me
sucks a
that like
lot.
it's a terrible conditions game, Mason's Rudolph. But if you tell me Mason Rudolph is playing, I'll pretty much believe you like anything weird happens. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
fine.
we could have lose or win against anybody with him playing because who
Yeah,
knows, you know? Yeah.
exactly. Well, yeah, usually negative. And you tell me anything negative, and like this Mason was playing, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So like, I think you could argue that the Washington football team kind of beating the Buccaneers pretty handily off a bye.
Taylor Heineke revenge game, man.
Yeah, totally. So
good for him.
And this game will get the headlines, but well, maybe, I don't know. We'll see, because that game was arguably a bigger surprise. But
oh god.
Oh man. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. We'll be back later this week with our preview of the Steelers next game against the Chargers. But we're sad.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be fun. We watched Justin Herbert. That's cool. I mean,
Yeah, that'll be nice. I mean, the good news, and we said this week, but like the Chargers are very bad against the run, so maybe this could be the Najee game. But Herbert.
Yeah, it's like, man, our defense has been okay,
especially if Hayden is out. And hey, no, don't worry, because even if TJ Watt isn't back, then they're gonna put Highsmith on Keenan Allen in the slot, and everything will be fine.
If that happens one time, I'm just gonna let you, because it will. I wish I could bet on that, right? I wish it could, like, not like
Can I get an over? Give me an over under on Alex Highsmith coverage snaps versus Keenan Allen.
Right, like someone needs to make a betting site that's specifically like weirdly specific.
How many of the set of those snaps would the over under have to be set at for you to bet the under?
5.
Legitimately 5. Okay, that's probably fair.
Yeah, I think 5, because I feel like 4. Like, I could see 4 very easily. 3, it's probably gonna happen. 2 is almost a guarantee. If it doesn't happen once, then I might personally go to Keith Butler's house and then shake his hand. We'll have to see about that. I don't know if I can swing the trip right now, but the point is that if that happens in that game, which it will, I might have to just turn it off for a couple minutes and just kind of rethink about my life a little bit and then go back into it. Not that this game should have done the same thing, so I can't whatever, but yeah, we'll see what happens there.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you later this week.